Ready? This is so
Yeah.
exciting! Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Nerdy Magical Girl podcast, a podcast where a nerdy black girl, me, talks about nerdy things. I'm your host, Milady Confetti, and I am here with the amazing Sarah Bond. It is so awesome to finally get to meet you and speak with you. If you want to tell people a little bit about yourself before we kind of jump into this awesome conversation that I'm so excited to have.
I am so excited to be here. You've made a podcast for me and about people like me. I
Yes.
can't
Yes.
believe this. I'm just so chuffed to be here. So thank you for having me because I can't think of anything more perfect to be here talking to you. So just so everybody knows what I do, I lead an organization in Xbox called the Gaming Ecosystem. And people are like, what does that mean? What is that about? So essentially what my team does is we're responsible for everything that's required for a game to come to Xbox or for someone to partner with Xbox. So that means all of our developer tools and services. That means all of our commerce capabilities and our publishing services and all of the commercial relationships that we have with partners around the world to support all of those things. It's a global team. It's a fantastic role. I get to meet with creators and people from all around the world that actually help Xbox be what it is. So that is me, and that's what I do.
That's so cool. You're a little busy, a little busy.
Small support role,
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
background.
Yeah.
Yeah. In all
um,
seriousness, it is amazing to work with the team of people I work with.
yeah.
And there's so many things that get to be enjoyed by players around the world, and I get to see my team in them, and it gives me a lot of joy and happiness.
Yeah. I kind of want to ask you about kind of what is like your how did you get to like the role that you got to?
Mhm.
Because that's like all of that is like really amazing, but I want to know like what's your origin story?
Oh my gosh, my origin story. Um, I moved 5 times before I was 10.
Mm.
I actually, when I was 10 years old, moved to England where I went to boarding school.
Oh wow.
Um, and that was hugely formative for me because the opportunity to get to live in Europe, when you're living in Europe, a weekend trip can be going to France or Spain or
Yes.
Turkey or Russia. So it
Mm-hmm.
was really formative. And I mention it because it really helped me get a greater appreciation for all of the cultures, the peoples, the experiences of the world. Right.
Yeah.
And to take what it is to be, from the United States and to understand that, but to also connect it with what broader humanity actually is and is living. And so it was a really formative experience for me. I came back for college. And then out of college, I actually decided that I wanted to go into consulting. So I went to go work for McKinsey. And I had always loved consumer companies, but I was sitting in the San Francisco office that only did tech. So I came up with this idea that I was going to do consumer tech. Okay.
Okay.
And everyone was like, Sarah, that is nuts. There is no consumer tech because you see, this was 20 years ago. Google hadn't IPO'd. There was no iPhone. I think Facebook might have been a website. I'm not even sure it was a website yet. Like
Thanks.
Zuckerberg might have still been in college, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and that is basically, Microsoft, Oracle, SAP. There was no consumer tech. Tech was enterprise, which today just seems kind of
Under
unbelievable to all
yeah.
of us, but that really is the way the world was. I said, no, I totally believe this is a thing. And I was really, really dedicated to it. And I started that when I was an analyst. I then went to, I actually worked for a year in Spain because I decided I tried to become fluent in Spanish. It didn't work,
What part of Spain?
Madrid.
Oh my god,
Madrid. Totally
I
fun.
spent summers in Madrid. Love
Yes.
it there. Love it there. Sorry, I just had to.
It's just a beautiful
It is.
place.
It
It's
is.
it's just amazing fun. I had the
Mhm.
best time. Then I went to business school, came back to McKinsey, and moved from the San Francisco office to the Seattle office, and kept going on my journey. I was like, consumer tech, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Um, and then I started doing a ton of work with T-Mobile, which is located here in Seattle, and is an entirely consumer, basically at the time, is entirely consumer wireless company. It's a consumer tech company.
Yeah.
So I was doing a ton of work with them. And at one point, and I'd done so much work, I actually developed a really good working relationship with the CEO. And so One day I was sitting in his office talking to him, and I told him that I was pregnant. And I said, I don't know what I'm going to do, like consulting, this lifestyle, the
Mm-hmm.
travel, the hours. And he goes, you know what? Why don't you come and be my chief of staff? And I thought, oh, I hadn't thought of that. That would be a pretty amazing opportunity to
Mm-hmm.
sit on the executive team of a Fortune 100 company, to get to understand all of the things that go into making a decision, to making a company work, versus consulting is a very deep view on a very specific subset of issues and topics.
Yeah.
So I accepted. I will say, leaving one job to go to another job 4 months pregnant, I don't necessarily recommend it. Like I was like, oh, it'll be fine. But
Mm-hmm.
obviously that was a lot of work.
Yeah.
I was his chief of staff for about a year. And that was a really transformative year because actually what happened, and this is a little bit going down memory lane, is AT&T during that year attempted to buy T-Mobile. So
Yeah.
literally a week after I joined the company, this was announced. And the CEO says to me, he says, I'm so sorry. I wish I could have told you that this was happening. Um, but I couldn't just because of, privacy and security and all of that.
Yeah.
But he said, I totally understand if, because this company is essentially going to be acquired and they'll just take the brand and they, and sort of fully integrate it into AT&T if this isn't for you. And I thought about it. I said, you know what? How long is it going to take? He said, a year. I said, well, do you need a chief of staff during that year? He said,
Mm-hmm.
yes. I said, you know what? Then I'm in. Okay, I'll do it. And in the end, that deal didn't actually happen. It didn't come to fruition. And so then we had to really reboot the company and we relaunched the company in a new strategy, which is a strategy that T-Mobile's on today called the Uncarrier strategy,
Mm-hmm.
which is all related to really shaping wireless to be really, really pro-consumer.
Okay.
And that was a tremendous ride. Actually, during that time, the CEO who I came to be the chief of staff for left. The new CEO came. I became John Ledger's chief of staff, which some people have heard of because he sort of became a celebrity CEO and to this day is very popular on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we IPO'd the company. We acquired another company. We launched the strategy. And T-Mobile went from losing 500,000 customers a quarter to gaining more than 1 million customers a quarter in a flat wireless market. So it was a great ride. I know it was amazing. I went from being his chief of staff to leading strategy of emerging businesses. And then at some point I stepped back and I thought, this has been an amazing journey, an incredible 6 years. So, I had my second kid, I got promoted a couple times, I got the opportunity to sit at the table and see these really amazing decisions.
Yeah.
But does the next 6 years have in it as much growth as the past six? And I concluded I didn't think it did. And importantly for me, which is why I started with my upbringing, because I had grown up internationally, while I loved working at the US wireless company, because the way wireless is, the licenses are geographically bound, it was not a true international opportunity. And I really wanted to work in something that was international, that brought that aspect to it. And also I thought, I just want to work for different types of leaders. Like I've worked for these type
Yeah.
of leaders. I've learned a ton from them. I want to work for another type of leader and learn from them. And then I can sort of assimilate that into who I am. So I sort of put it out there in my mind. I was like, okay, I'm going to be open to reach out. And I got a reach out on LinkedIn, if you can believe it, from Microsoft. I came in and I talked to Microsoft a couple times. They didn't have a specific role for me.
Mm-hmm.
They just said, well, we just want to learn who you are. We like your profile. We like your background. And in the end, a woman named Peggy Johnson, who ran business development for Microsoft at the time, made me an offer to come and work for her, basically running business development for like new disruptive technologies. And I sort of looked at it and I was like, this isn't as big as the job I have today. This is a totally new team, a totally new risk. And you know what? I'm going to take it. I'm just going to jump. And I did that. And after I'd been at Microsoft for about 4 or 5 months, the person who ran business development for gaming retired. And Phil Spencer talked to Peggy and he said, I really think there's no one in Microsoft who can fill this job. We're going to have to look externally and get someone who knows consumers, subscription, and wireless. Can you
Mm.
believe that? And
Mm.
she's like, you should do that. So I went and met with Phil. We hit it off. I met the rest of the gaming leadership team and I moved into that role. great time in that role. Like I got to be instrumental to launching Game Pass, to bringing all the games, to really pivoting a lot of the things we were doing with our strategy. And then that led to me also then taking on engineering responsibilities within the team, which leads me to the role I have today.
Yeah.
Woo. So that's basically my origin
Your
story.
superhero origin story. That is like, oh my god. That is incredible. And the thing is, like, I what I took from that, I'm sorry, this isn't on my sheet of paper to ask, but it's just I'm very conversational. But like, what I
Mhm.
take from that is because I'm just going through a lot of things, like personally, just like as a Black woman, and just there's just a lot of stuff always
Yeah,
happening, and like to know that like the journey isn't always linear, and like
it never is actually. It
and
never is.
when we
Yeah.
started, well, when we the call began, I mentioned my mom because she's somebody who's very like influential in my life, and like literally like
Mhm.
a mom's words, it's just like it's a journey, and like just
It-
hearing your story, I'm just like, moms have points, moms have
yeah.
points.
It's about risk. It's about
Yeah,
understanding who you are. It's also working for people who believe in you.
yeah,
I often say to people, I'm like, focus on the leader you're working for more than the job they give you.
mm,
Because in the end, if you work for someone who believes in you, and I also think it's especially true if you're a woman or you're underrepresented, right? So there's a set of assumptions that people might have about you and your capabilities in the world.
yeah,
But if you find someone who believes in you, the rest will come,
yeah,
right? If you get expose yourself to new and different experiences and you basically get your brain exposed to all sorts of different situations,
yeah,
you'll learn to see patterns that no one else can see. And
mm-hmm,
even though at the time it might feel like a step back or it might feel lateral and you're not progressing, in the end, what you're doing is you're building up your own sense of worth, your own unique point of view, your own ability to add value, and it will work out. I
yeah,
promise you, it'll work out.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's where I
Mhm.
think I'm at the like this. I feel like I'm taking a step back, and then like literally, it's just like, okay, well, what can I do something new to so something that
Yeah.
isn't that I'm used to, because it's
Mhm.
like are
Mhm.
you comfortable, like what can you do to like take a risk to do something different, like literally, and I'm just like, oh my god,
Yeah, I
read my
get it.
mind.
Totally get it. I totally get it. Yeah. A good friend of mine actually, like maybe a year after I left T-Mobile, she said, when you left, we did an analysis. And you were the only person who was sort of in that type of situation in the company who left. It literally looked completely counterintuitive and completely illogical to us on paper that you left.
Mm,
And I said, yeah, I get it. But, I wasn't, someone said to me the other day, fear of change isn't really fear of change, it's fear of loss. So it's very easy to get focused on what you'll lose from where you currently are,
mm,
right?
yeah,
But you need to let that go and embrace the change and understand that there is more to gain.
yeah,
There's always more to gain. Sometimes people really focus on the destination or, I just want to be this thing. And my godmother used to say over and over and over and over again to me, that becoming is greater than being, right? That the journey that is greater than being. And I was thinking about that just the other day, and I thought, you know what? Actually, I don't even think that's true. I actually think there is no being. There is only becoming. That's all there is.
yeah,
You know.
yeah,
And once you see that, making those steps and walking your path is enjoyable in and of itself because there is no arrival.
yeah.
You know. Yeah. Hmm.
Thank you for that. Needed
Sure.
that. Oh, okay. I have my Fenty on, no crying. Um do you so can I like talk about like what kind of video games do you like to play? And kind of what's like your history
Ooh,
with video games?
I I really love platformers. Like
Yeah.
I like Ori. We just cracked out Ravenlock last night, which was
Mhm.
super fun. I became totally obsessed with Echo Generation. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Pedestrian. I got really into that. You know, that is what sort of is my jam. I'll be honest. My husband is a little bit more FPS. And I sort of play through him that way. Like we'll literally
Yeah.
sit and discuss what's happening and what you should do
Yeah.
together. And my children are basically dedicated career Minecrafters. It's pretty funny. At one point, someone gave me a Mojang sweatshirt, like a hoodie sweatshirt, zipped
Yeah.
up the front. And my daughter saw it and she's like, that is mine. And she literally wore it for 400 days straight. Okay. Like sometimes I'd be like, I have to wash it. And she'd be like, no. And I was like, I'll just put it on the refresh cycle. Can I just have 15
Yeah.
minutes?
Please.
And she'd be like standing by the refresh cycle, like shaking. I'm like, here you go. Keep going.
I'm definitely an RPG girly.
Okay.
One thing I do love about Game Pass, because when that came out and things like that, because I didn't grow up with an Xbox because my mom just couldn't afford it. So I had like a
Yeah.
Sega Genesis for forever, ever.
Oh,
Like
the
when
Sega
everybody was like,
Genesis.
I'm getting the
So good.
PS3. I said, I still have my Genesis. Like that's what was happening for me.
Hold
I
on.
said, there's
Okay.
no game systems. So when people talk about like the nostalgia of like, oh, did you play Halo? Did you play, Dragon? Did you play those things? Like it was Game Pass that gave me
Yes.
access to those things because I
So
didn't have it growing up. I was just
Mhm.
like, oh, there's new systems. Okay, so we're off the cartridge thing. Okay, my bad.
We're off the cartridge thing. You're hilarious. She's like,
I don't
okay,
have to blow into my games anymore.
I'm just becoming a modern woman. Mhm, yeah.
But yeah, RPGs are just like because I love being sucked into a story. I love it. Like if I
Yes.
can just get lost in the story of this make believe character, whether that's Geralt of Rivia or Sora from Kingdom
Yes.
Hearts, like that's where my bread and butter is because I love
Love that.
good storytelling.
Love
Hmm.
that. I love good storytelling too. I'm a big storytelling junkie too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. Oh, okay. So we gotta like go from like fun to like serious and then like fun again. So that's how I had to have
Okay.
like this
I feel
setup.
like even the seriousness with you is fun.
It is
You
fun.
know, like, there's no separating the joy.
In 2020, the gaming industry was shown a reflection of itself that it's not very diverse, especially when it
Mhm,
comes to Black people, specifically Black
mhm,
women, because I
mhm,
like to champion for Black women because I'm a Black woman. And when it comes to hiring, retention, and promotion, how does Xbox create a diverse environment internally
mhm.
and externally, and also when working with creators?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay, it is a serious question. I'll give you that.
It is.
Um,
Don't
you
yell
know,
at
when I
me.
first came when I first came to the gaming industry, I mean, you heard the story. So, I meet Phil, da, da, da,
Yeah.
and then people are like, are you really gonna do that? And even some of the other members of the leadership team said, we just want to warn you, like this may not be like, well, at Xbox, we're doing a lot of work to create real global inclusion and to make sure there's full opportunity for everyone. That is not necessarily what your experience is going to be in the industry.
Yeah.
And we want you to go into this industry eyes wide open on that. Um, and I thought about that a lot. Um, and I said, well, that's the opportunity. If I'm going to go use the precious, fixed minutes of my life, I don't know how many I've been given, but I know it's not infinite,
Yeah.
to go do something. Let me go do it somewhere where we can move the needle, where things can change. And let me go do it with a team where I believe they are open to moving the needle. That's critical.
That part.
And
Yeah.
Xbox was already there. Initiatives like Gaming for Everyone, which aren't just about the composition of our team, but actually what I would consider the composition, the accessibility of our products,
Yeah.
right? Because that's actually what you're trying to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not about hiring people that fulfill a certain template. It's about actually creating opportunity for everyone in the end, right? And you're doing that hiring so that you can get to that place.
Yes.
But in the end, what you want is you want true global inclusion. And you want it to be in a way that, yes, acknowledges women, acknowledges minorities as we define minorities today, but also importantly brings in and includes that which we cannot yet see, that which we do not yet understand, that which is not spoken of, right?
Yeah.
So that you actually are, as much as when we are lifting ourselves up, we lift up others. And so there's so many things that we're doing at Xbox that are related to that, because it is no single one thing.
Yeah.
It is the composition of our team. It's our Gaming for Everyone activities. It's what we did with Project Amplify. I don't know if you saw that, where we
Yes.
showcased
Mm-hmm.
Black leaders across the organization so that other people could see that it could be them.
Yeah.
Things like Game Camp, right, where we're actually reaching out to and we're helping to expose people to the beauty and the power of making games and giving
Yes.
them access to tools and resources. And we choose where we go there very carefully. We've done it in New Orleans just today. We've done it in Atlanta. And today I'm so excited. We're doing our first one in Africa. Okay. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. And just continuing to push those things around the world.
Yeah.
Um, and then within our team, my team, and I told you what my team does. We've done a lot of thinking. We said, okay, well, what can my team do that is unique here, that is literally grounded in what we do, which is in the end bring you games,
Yeah.
right? And we spent a long time thinking about that, and we realized that when you just look at the data, the majority of games in the world are coming from creators in North America, Western Europe, and East Asia. And those games are great, but they represent the lived experience, the perspective of those creators. And gaming is really close knit. Like, it's one of the things I love about it. But that means that for people who don't come from places where there is that prevalence of creativity, like grounded in games, they don't know how to get in.
Right.
They may have a story or an experience that they want to share in a game, but where do they start? Right. And so we thought, well, we can change that, right? We can we can break down those barriers. And that is why we launched the Developer Acceleration Program.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we just announced, gosh, was it a month ago? Time is sort of blurry. A month ago, 2 months ago.
2 months ago, yeah.
Yeah. And that program was really born in the idea of how do we reach out? How do we create resources, access, mentorship, support for people who are trying to bring their first game to Xbox,
Yeah.
aren't really sure how to do it, and they are an underrepresented creator, or they're building a game grounded in a story of a underrepresented group that is in a respectful way. Um, and it's things like that that I think, you know, over long arcs of time is the real impact that we want. What you want is everyone to have equal opportunity to be able to succeed, right? To be able to have a creative idea, to bring it into the world, to be able to make money from it, frankly, and
Yeah.
then so that they can then do another creative idea and
Yeah.
build and build and build. And you want those things to have a natural flywheel. So after you and I are long gone, right? When we're just dust and sand, it's still going.
Yeah.
When I first came to gaming, I thought of it, I'm like, well, these are just games. Not just games. I mean, they're fun,
Yeah.
right? They're enjoyable.
Time to play. Yeah.
Time to play. But then, especially getting to work with the Idea at Xbox team that just sees such a huge diversity of games, I saw something else. It's sort of when you said I love RPGs, it's like you love the story, but you're playing that game and you get an opportunity to experience a perspective, a narrative, a world that you would probably never get to experience otherwise.
Yeah.
So and when you think about how most young people in the world would rather play a video game than do anything else, and then you think about, well, what are the stories that they're playing, right? Who are they connecting with? I'm like, well, this is the greatest opportunity and imperative that we have, right? You
Yeah.
can talk to someone, you can sit with someone in school, you can tell them, hey, this is what bias is, this isn't what bias is, or you can just create a way for them to live it.
Mm-hmm.
And when people live it and they experience it, they don't even know that their view has changed. It just changes.
Yeah. That's powerful.
That was a very long answer. Sorry.
No, sometimes I think like that trying to search for my words. I feel like if it's long or short, I feel like that it's the impact that matters, so people
Yes.
understand that. Because I feel like from like a consumer, and because I know I have like the in between road of like being a creator, so like I've worked with
Yeah.
with Xbox on like Black History Month and things like that, so like I have like that perspective. But like as a consumer, there's also that perspective of driving connection, and that's one
Yes.
thing because I don't think I was able to put into words what the vibe of Xbox is until I became a creator. And I'm just like, it's about connection, because I see like other things that are happening on the internal
Yeah.
side. But then when you take that creator side apart, and it's just like, no, like there really is, there's connection here. There's, like you said, like experiences that you can take away from. Like when I got access finally to play Xbox games, because, Team No cartridge anymore, like You really got to experience. I'm sorry.
Your
But
new
like
nickname.
you
There's Nerdy Girl, and then there's Team No Car Trick.
Steve
Yeah.
Carter.
So
I was
good.
like, let's get the Sega Genesis. No, I still have it. But
Oh,
you really just you do get to see a whole different perspective and also get a whole access to like community. Cause I think like
yes.
I
What
think
I was
like with
going to say
Xbox, I
is,
always say I think of community. That's the first thing that always comes to my mind is community, it's connection. Xbox is like a big reason. I never like told this in it because I don't really talk about like my personal life like often, but Xbox was the reason like me and my brother connected. Because I didn't know my brother growing up. And like it was Xbox and Call of Duty that brought us together because we like to play zombies together. And that's how we got to know
I
each
love
other.
that.
So like at the core
Love
of it,
that.
it's like it's community,
Yes.
it's connection. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
The two words I would use, you were saying connection. And I thought, yeah, connection and shared experience,
yeah,
connection and shared achievement.
yeah.
Right. And like, I've said this many times, but it really is true. There's no other form of media where you can share an achievement with someone. You haven't met them. They may be your
Mm-hmm.
long lost brother. You
Yeah,
don't know their language. You don't know their ability. You don't know their gender, right? They don't have to be in the same place in the world as you.
yeah,
And you can get there together and you can do something, not
yeah,
observe each other.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Help each other out.
Complete a Destiny raid. There is no like better feeling than that.
You're like, it's been a day. Will you do a Destiny raid with me? You know?
Yeah.
Love it. Mhm. Mhm.
And one thing I will say, like as a creator, because I mean, it's not often I get to talk to people who are like as cool as you, but I will say, like, because I told this to Phil when I met him, when he in New
Yeah.
York City. But one thing I say, like, as a marginalized creator, one thing I appreciate that Xbox does on the flip end is like, because 2020, like, I did, that was a year that people came to figure that Black people exist, and I'm like, oh, okay, hi.
Mhm.
But the thing is, what I liked about Xbox is that there was a strategic plan put in place and to say like,
Yeah.
hey, this is what we're going to do on so many different ends. And it might seem
Yes.
large, but the thing is we can do this. And every year there has been updates to say like, okay, this is what we accomplished, this is what we didn't. And we're still working on this thing. And that accountability is like something I don't see a lot of
Absolutely.
people doing. And it's like that really does matter to
Absolutely.
show it's not just like I'm going to make a statement on Twitter and do the thing and say I did the thing and then there's no follow-up. There is, because like even when I was talking to Phil, he's like, well, this is what we're doing, we're still doing this thing. He was like, I appreciate you bringing that up. And I was like, well, I gotta ask you here. You paying for dinner, I gotta
Related
ask.
to that, I'll share another story with you. Around the time that we first started incubating the Developer Acceleration Program, which is
Mm,
actually in incubation, I think since 2018.
wow.
Okay. Yeah. Because initially we didn't want to announce it because
Yeah.
we wanted it to be about the games and not about us. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
this is about giving those creators opportunity, showcasing them, not about us victory lapping here.
Yeah.
But we realized we needed to announce it because we had gotten to this point where only the creators who knew about it were asking about it. So it wasn't quite achieving its goal, right? Which
Yeah.
we talk about, which is let's get what we cannot see.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but around the time that we created it, we also started thinking more broadly. And one of the teams said to me, they said, you know what, we just don't have a lot of games from the Eastern European Slavic regions. I was like, oh, she's like, we're gonna go. Like the team's like, we're getting on a plane. Let's go meet with creators. Let's go tell them we're here.
Yeah.
And coming out of that is why we have uh, the Stalker 2 game coming to Xbox and Xbox Game Pass.
That's incredible.
That game is built by a team based in Kiev, or they were
Wow.
based.
Yeah.
And they've had to move, for their safety.
Yeah.
But gosh, when the war broke out, and we already were in a position, also Replaced is another game that came out of that, which is also from a Ukrainian studio. I said, and we were in a position where we were already committing to content from those creators
Yeah.
before anyone had Ukraine on a list of countries that urgently needed help or spotlighting. We
Yeah.
were doing it.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
It's the accountability that transcends people watching whether or not you're accountable.
Yeah.
You do it because you do it. Because it's the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding the human experience that we're all going through this thing together.
Yes.
And having like games is that connection for, like you said earlier, like for some people sometimes that's the thing that does connect us or that helps us understand each other's lived experience, even if we have not been there or don't always speak the same language. So I think that that's extremely powerful.
Mhm.
Yeah. Why did I write a paragraph? Nobody stopped me. Why did nobody stop me? Okay, I'm just gonna read it because I'm a cornball. Right now it's a scary time in the games industry with layoffs and things happening in the economy. Xbox, you did recently launch the ID
Mhm.
program that 2 months ago, and
Yeah.
that's really scary. So can you explain your approach on investing in the indie space and how that benefits creators of underrepresented backgrounds, which I know we kind of spoke about.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but how things like mass layoffs and budget cuts, like how do you stay committed when that's a scary thing that's happening in real time?
There's always ebbs and flows. I mean, that is part of life,
Yeah.
right? Um, and personally, and our team, it's easy to stay committed in that because that's what leads to the long-term sustainable results,
Yeah.
right? If you react to the thing that's right in front of you, you're never able to actually capture the opportunity that's inevitable. Um, and every year, for as long as I've been in the industry and way before I was in the industry, there is a game that comes from a creator that none of us have ever heard of, right? And it's beautiful and it's innovative and it shows us something new. And the commitment, you can never waver in the commitment of I'm not going to be able to tell you where it's going to be from. My job is to make sure that it's here,
Yeah.
that it gets supported, and people get to play it. That is what it means to be a platform. And so it is actually, in some ways, it's a luxury of being a platform. We're not about any one game,
Yeah.
right? We're about ensuring that the best, the most immersive, the most innovative, the most quality of experiences are there for people to play. And in the end, that is what rises the tide, and that's what steers the boat.
um So, from another article, you were quoted about creative teams and things about
Mhm.
Activision, Blizzard, and giving them culture that we found to be successful in our own
Yeah.
organization. So, what does it, or what will it look like to acclimate people, especially from marginalized folks affected from toxic work environments, to Xbox's culture to make them feel safe, confident, and eventually take pride in where they work?
Yeah. I love that you asked. The first thing, and I think about this a lot, is that no one is perfect. No company is perfect. No individual is perfect. Um, I personally am riddled with flaws and my own biases and beliefs and history that I have to remain cognizant of and get better about every single day.
Yeah.
Um, and that is what it is. It goes back to what I said earlier, actually. There is no being. There is only becoming.
Yeah.
You are only ever just trying to do better than you did the day before. Sometimes I make another joke. I'm like, the only person I'm competing with is younger Sarah, and she's super annoying because she's younger, but she doesn't know as much.
Right. Right. That's fair.
So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, that's it,
Yeah.
right? That's all we can do. And so I think about culture, evolving Xbox culture, bringing other teams into our culture the same way. It's about modeling, it's about creating trust and safety, it's about being accountable, it's about giving each other the language, the space to understand what's happening and where we want to go. And I think it's important in all teams. There's never been a team where this hasn't mattered. And I've been on many teams where though it wasn't emphasized, so the team was sort of broken.
Yeah.
But I think for creative teams in particular, it's the only way to unlock true innovative success. Because if you don't feel safe, if every perspective and beautiful piece of art that's sitting in a person's mind doesn't have opportunity to be seen and celebrated in the moment, you can't actually innovate. You can repeat. You might be able to optimize
Yeah.
to a point, but you can't take the next leap. And that's how I look at it.
Yeah.
You know, the journey, the steps, the commitment. the realization that where we are today is completely unacceptable. It's all about where we're going to go, and it's all about how we actually build from where we are versus wallow in the present. Mhm.
Thank you so much. I know that was like heavy questions, but I promise I
That's
have
all right.
fun. I promise I have fun ones too. So of course, I had to go on your Twitter, and I saw that you are also a Star Wars fan. So I have to ask, who is your favorite Star Wars character?
Okay, right now, Bo-Katan Kryze. I mean, my
Okay.
goodness.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. It
Yeah.
used to be Rey, but I'm really into the Bo-Katan. Like that moment where she's standing there with the dark saber.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
you know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I've got my hands above my head, and my daughter's celebrating, and my son and my husband are like, we don't understand. After that, I mean, obviously, Grogu. I mean, come on with the hand.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I
I'm
just
kind
need
of
an outfit for him that fits, because that thing on his feet is bothering me. I don't know. Listen. I don't work for Star Wars. I just
look,
need to.
he's gonna float all the time. Okay, he's floating.
True. True. And on a scale of 1 to 10 or infinity, how excited are you for the Ahsoka series?
Okay, I'm totally at 11. I'm so hyped for it that my brother-in-law, who by the way, my brother-in-law's Twitter handle is "You shall not pass," which I think is totally rad. We
That's
made a
awesome.
pact. We got to watch it together. Yeah.
I'm so excited because Ahsoka is my favorite character. So
Yeah,
like,
I
I'm
got to
just
check
like,
it out.
I'm here, and then next to her is Anakin, but we're not going to talk about that. But yes, don't judge me.
There's a little bit of like the torture, you know. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Sarah, thank you so much for talking to me and speaking to me today. I had so much fun, nothing but smiles and just learning and growth and being a nerd. Like, oh my God, I hope we get to do this again someday.
Honestly, I'm telling you, I said this is a podcast for me and about people like me. I'm here for it. So thank you so much. It
Yes.
was amazing to meet you. Your energy is infectious, and I loved every question. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Aw. And if you're listening to the podcast, make sure you like and subscribe and do all the things. And I will see you next week. Bye.